Faywhat Show. We want to introduce you to interesting people that are so important to our LGBTQ plus community. And today is no different. I've got my homegirl, my friend, Miss Rachel Covello from Outcoast with us. I'm so excited. Today on the Faywhat Show, I want you all to meet this incredible representation of just beauty, advocacy, loving, lesbian. I can go on and on and on. Her name is Rachel Covello. She is the publisher of Outcoast.com, which she launched in 2017. She's the producer of Outcoast TV and the host of FLOCC, the Florida Outcoast Convention that we're going to be talking about soon enough. Florida's first nationwide LGBTQ plus tourism convention. The convention's in August this year, and Rachel travels around Florida highlighting LGBTQ plus inclusive destinations and businesses. Rachel has built strong relationships with global tourism, LGBTQ plus leaders, and Fortune 500 companies such as Saint Gobain. She is passionate about bringing people together, connecting people on a human level, and building bridges over walls. I love that. How are you, Miss Rachel?
I am good. I'm excited to be here.
So, you said that it's been a while since you've been in bed with a fae.
Yes.
You were married to a fae, weren't you?
I was married to
Not to this fae, a different fae. And there's not too many faes in this world.
No,
right?
and she spells it exactly the same way.
Like everybody spells fae with an E.
Yeah.
Only cool people spell it without an E, which is your ex-wife.
Yes, my former spouse, we were together for 10 years. We kind of took a few years apart, but have become very, very close friends. In fact, I think my current wife likes my ex-wife more than my current wife likes me some days. But that's a different story.
Okay, I'm going to marinate in that, all right? And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're all great friends.
Wow, but it's just like, okay, I dated men for a bit, and I think that was the reason why I'm not like most of my lesbian friends. Like most of my lesbian friends are still best friends with their exes. Once me and my exes broke up, we never were in each other's lives again.
I was in that world too. I actually had a husband too. I collect spouses.
I love it.
For some reason. Never actually been single for more than a couple of weeks at a time, it seems. No, but I had a husband and was definitely in the straight community for many years. And this Faye is just a very special person to me. And when we parted ways, it wasn't so much because we couldn't get along. It was other things. And we were just meant to still be in each other's lives. So she's kind of one of those like soul sister kind of relationships
that you've slept with, soul sister that you slept with. Because I don't F my friends, and that's my thing. I can't be friends with someone like that. If that I'm still thinking about effing you, we can't be friends. You know.
But I don't think about that with her.
Okay.
No offense.
Was she good in bed?
I'm I really am attracted to my wife, Margaret.
I love Margaret.
And she's amazing
Margaret's
in bed.
And she's like so sweet. I love Margaret.
So let's focus on that.
It makes sense why you're with Margaret though, because like it's like a yin and a yang kind of deal, you know?
We're
like
so opposite.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
But you and Margaret remind me of me and Teresa. Like we're so opposite. Like we're the outgoing ones. They're the ones that take our picture. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are like, do we have to stay here this long? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it helps ground us.
Yes. And what I love about her is she doesn't mind me being in bed with you now. So yeah, I did call her and I said, I'm getting in bed with Faye. And she said, wait a minute, with Faye?
Can we talk about this? No, not that Faye, a different Faye.
Right, a totally different.
Yeah, like not a totally non-threatening Faye. You know, that's me. So let's talk about this travel summit because I was super excited about you telling me about this a couple months ago, and even more excited now that that Faye, your ex, is helping you put this all together, all right? You've been trying to put something like this for a while. Like I think since I first met you, you had this vision of doing something to this degree, and then you were able to finally make this happen for this year. Tell me about that.
So, I go to tourism conventions all over. I've been to the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association convention. I used to do photography for conventions, so I was kind of pulled into that world, for a few years, NGLCC, Out and Equal, et cetera. And I also went to the Governor's Convention on Tourism, which is something that's been going on forever. Ironically, governors don't actually show up at it. It's just like titled that way.
Okay.
But what I've noticed over the last couple of years is less and less conversations and topics about diversity being talked about, especially as it pertains to LGBTQ component. So there was a convention a couple of years ago where I did have an opportunity to run a breakout session to talk about LGBTQ tourism marketing. And then last year I went, and I hate to say it, but it was a very like whitewashed conference. It was very, there was one person on the last day that was of mixed race. It was almost like they were intentionally checking a box, whether they were doing that intentional or not. It just came across that way. And I thought there's so many topics that people aren't talking about at this convention and that need to be talked about. And then like things like diversity in tourism, travel advisories and travel boycotts. How does that affect destinations? Especially destinations, right? How does it affect destinations like a Wilton Manors? When you put a blanket statement saying that, hey, careful about coming to Florida. Although I understand that, and I definitely appreciate the work that Equality Florida does to make make it safe for people to come here and live here, especially like trans youth and parents and families. Unfortunately, when you put that stigma across the whole state, it also negatively impacts destinations that are either already very, very inclusive or destinations that are just starting to venture into promoting themselves as such and getting involved more in the community. So it's kind of a little double-edged sword, a little bit, with the way it was handled.
Yeah, no, we definitely have to talk a little bit more about that. And that's, it's tough because, again, Equality Florida is such a trusted organization and we love everything that you guys have
100%.
done. So much had to happen for them to do that advisory, Rachel.
100%.
You know what I mean? I doubt that was so easily put out there because they know who that affects.
Right. And because, in the tourism space, and these are topics we'll talk about at the convention in August, and in the tourism space, my job is to promote. It used to be that we would say that we promoted Florida as an LGBTQ welcoming destination. We've changed the branding on that. We now say we promote LGBT inclusive destinations in Florida. And we're being a little bit even more stringent about like who we work with and what destinations we work with. We don't want to just check a box. We don't want to have a destination like host us, but not invest in the community. And that happens a lot sometimes in destinations. Destinations are afraid to sometimes promote themselves because they saw what happened with Disney. So it's really trying to create a space where everyone can get together and talk about these conversations, and know that when, in the work I do, I really try to stay, I don't want to say I stay out of politics because it's important to be updated on what's going on, but I try not to have it so mixed in because we do have people on our platform with differing opinions. And, we want to make sure our platform is inclusive to all people who might come across it.
But it's made it difficult
as soon as the advisory came out, all of a sudden it was like, okay, Rachel, it doesn't matter what you're trying to avoid, we're pulling you into politics. But the first call I made was to Nadine because I said,
Nadine Smith.
Yeah, to Nadine Smith, of course, the president of Equality, or executive director of Equality Florida. And I said, hey, look, we promote tourism to Florida. We will continue to do that because we need to support destinations like Wilton Manors and St. Petersburg, Florida, and Orlando, and the places that we know are welcoming. But we also want to make sure that we're partnering with you and supporting what you're doing too, and the messaging you're sending. And we don't ever want to come out, no pun intended, as being against the work that Equality Florida is doing. So we're trying to collaborate as much as possible. And Nadine will be at our I believe she'll be on our panel about the travel advisory and boycotts.
I love that. So, I love Nadine. She's a great human being. DeSantis has made your work different.
Yeah, it's definitely
like you said, I never wanted to be in politics. I never wanted to know everything about politics. Okay. We were forced to know because now our lives depend on it, and it's better to be aware than the delusion that I see in many LGBTQ plus people that are just like, oh, we got married. That's it. Yeah. We're fine. We're done. We don't need to fight anymore. We don't need to advocate anymore.
Right.
DeSantis is trying to basically shut us down at every corner.
As when you introduced me, I'm a big fan of building bridges versus putting up walls. So I have always prided myself in having difficult conversations with people across all political spectrums, having an open mind, trying to lead with empathy. I know everybody has their own story that gets them to the point of voting a certain way or advocating for a certain perspective. But I have to tell you, at this point, I've become, and you've probably seen on social media too, I've become more vocal because I'm losing patience now with, hey, we can talk to you, and we can communicate, and we can listen as much as possible. And I will always try to do that. But at some point, when your pocketbook becomes more important than someone's human rights, or I talk to people all the time, and I do have friends that are Republican, and they'll say, well, everything that's happening is going to help, is supposed to help kids. And when you continue to ask them over and over again, okay, explain to me what part of this bill will help the children. Like, break it down for me. I want to understand. And I usually respond like that because there's no point in pushing back.
You don't want to attack them.
Yeah, I don't, because I want to create change. I want to pull them this way. I don't want to just push them that way. But sometimes what you'll notice is the more and more you just ask, please explain, break it down for me, why. most of them have never even read the bill.
No.
They have no idea what's actually
And don't know what it
being
entails. And basically just like, we're protecting the children,
Right.
you know? And let me state that being like a Trumper and being a Republican can be two completely different things and are two completely different things. There are plenty of Republicans in our community that we respect. And when it came time to vote, they knew who they had to vote for, you know? But this is the world that we're living in.
Yeah,
You know?
and it does make my job harder and harder. You know, I get hate from both sides. I mean, we definitely get messages every now and then. This is not every day, but every now and then we'll get messages that tell me to find Jesus, which I think is ironic because I grew up Jewish and I actually converted to Christianity. So I'm like, I already found him.
Twice.
And then, you know, and then other times I'll get messages from like our own LGBT community calling me some pretty like rough names saying, why are you promoting Florida? Don't bring people to Florida. I would never go to Florida. Don't put money in Florida. And are we allowed to curse on this?
Of course.
Okay,
please.
cool. Awesome. So I did get an email that said, you know, you're a DeSantis cocksucker for promoting Florida. And I was mostly offended because they called me a cocksucker because it's been a long time. So,
I would be double offended because it was DeSantis's. You know what I mean?
No. But, you know, I kind of take those.
You have to take it as a grain of salt. You
yeah.
have to take it because the misinformation that's out there is so scary, okay?
100%.
I have spoken to Fox News lovers, right-wing folks that literally think that drag queens are coming into our elementary schools and injecting our children with some kind of shit to make them gay.
Yeah.
Okay? Right? It sounds nuts, but they literally believe this. They actually believe that we're doing gender-affirming care on a 4 and 5-year-old, you know, that we're doing these surgeries that we are not. None of that is happening. But do your research and find out for yourself. Do not get your education from Fox News.
Right. And one of the things, you know, in my space, I work with a lot of tourism agencies and not tourism agencies, but like what we call destination marketing organizations. So like a Visit Lauderdale, Visit St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa, et cetera. Lauderdale is by far the only destination that has stood up. Stacey Ritter's amazing, but she's the only one that stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. And she's done it at the potential risk of hurting her career. And she does it comes from an authentic place. And I love that about her. Richard Gray, of course, too. They're all huge advocates.
I love Richard Gray.
But I try to remind these destinations that when you don't speak up, when you don't say that this is wrong, the travelers pay attention. They not only pay attention to what you say, but they pay attention to what you don't say.
Yeah.
And so they stop coming to destinations. If drag queens don't feel safe and shows are getting canceled, I know in our area, Apollo Beach, which is kind of south of us, a little bit more red area, they just canceled a popular drag show at the Salty Shamrock because of pushback from local community members. That affects tourism.
Yeah.
LGBT travelers go to destinations because there are LGBT-friendly things to do. Granted, I don't always want to do gay stuff. Sometimes I get tired of doing gay stuff, honestly. But we also look for inclusive destinations that might have drag shows or might have LGBT bars. And if these places start either shutting down or stop hosting events, tourists stop coming. And not only did the LGBTQ tourists stop coming, their allies stop coming too. And so destinations that aren't speaking up and aren't a part of the conversation, they're going to suffer. And that's when I go out and I travel destinations, everyone sees me doing these fun videos of different beautiful places. And it's a great perk to my job. But when I'm in those destinations, I also tend to have hard conversations, not just with these destinations, but also going to the local watering hole and like talking to people who have different beliefs and just being present and being out and open about who I am to hopefully create like that, you know, pebble in the water effect that there might actually be change.
And where could we see those videos?
So outcoast.com is our travel blog. And we do have a lot of videos posted through that from our YouTube channel. And then Outcoast TV is our travel vlog, where we do more of the video content. That's why I'm actually in town visiting with you today. I'm doing a Wilton Manors video.
I love it.
So we have lots of really cool content. I try to make it fun and engaging.
But do you touch, I mean, it has to be fun and engaging, but do you also touch on the reality of what's going on at all?
We do some separate videos on that. Okay. You know, we create our video content. We definitely want to partner and highlight the destinations that are already inclusive. Yeah. We make sure that any brands that we're featuring in those videos are welcoming to LGBTQ people. And so we're really careful about that. So we try to be real. The thing that we're really being real about right now is I am one component of our larger LGBT community. I'm a 42-year-old Caucasian, lesbian, bisexual woman, however you want to label me. And then, or however I want to label myself that day. I actually prefer muscle sexual, but we'll talk about that later.
Muscle sexual.
Yeah. But the bottom line is I also make sure that we're bringing in other faces and people within our community to make it more authentic and getting feedback. We are probably going to shy away a little bit from promoting family vacations or people moving to Florida from a family perspective, because I'm not so sure how I feel about that right now. A lot of bills were passed last week that are going to directly, or this past month, that are going to directly impact families. And so we may focus and pivot our focus a little bit more to adults and, seniors and.
No, but that makes sense. That's the climate that we're in.
But we still need people coming here. If you come here and you tell me you're not going to come here because of what's happening in Florida, LGBT businesses that are part of the tourism world suffer. The stores suffer. The restaurants right here in Walton Manors that are LGBT owned, which majority of them are, suffer. So come to Florida, but make sure you're very selective about the hotels you're staying at. Look for TAG approved hotels, which usually go through a training process for their staff members on being welcoming and inclusive.
And that would be something that would be on their websites?
Yeah, you can actually Google TAG approved hotels.
Okay.
I think it's Community Marketing Insights runs that, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me. But yeah, you can usually find out from the hotels, see if the hotels are members of IGLTA, and making sure that they're inclusive. And then, look for the LGBT owned businesses and organizations while you're here. Create an impact, have an impact when you travel here.
And to those non-LGBTQ plus organizations that love our LGBTQ plus organizations, right? It's time to step it up. Like Rachel said, being silent is also a detriment to our community. Okay. You are hurting us by staying silent. And I know that some people are like, I won't do anything, just not to get involved. This ain't the time to be that way. It really isn't.
And a friend of mine the other day, love him dearly, and he said, I don't get involved with social stuff or social advocacy. It's too exhausting. And I'm like, and I said in a very nice way, that's extremely privileged of you to say, because if I were a Black transgender woman, I couldn't just not get involved with social stuff. I'm part of that. Exactly. So, we have to amplify those voices. I've been watching the whole Drag to Tally efforts that have been going on this week, and the women that are leading this Drag to Tally events are incredible. They will be in the history books.
And they need to be. They need to be. 100%. They will be the new Stonewalls. And that's what we need to do, and uprise, because we're not going to be listened otherwise. How do you even portray fun and sun and gay and all this, with all this going on? Do you wake up some mornings and go, can't do this shit anymore?
I have my moments. I can't. I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, and I was there for the eTourism convention, which is a national tourism convention focused on the digital marketing aspect. So I was there not only to learn, because I do digital marketing, but I was also there to network. And that was the week that the whole advisory came about. And I have to tell you, I went back home at the end of the week. Not only is Vegas exhausting, and I was recovering from that, but mentally, emotionally, physically, every component of me was exhausted. And I think I laid in bed for 2 days and just cried. I think it was also PMSing, but it happened.
Combination, yeah.
So it was a perfect storm. I think my wife thought she might go to Vegas and just escape it. No, but it was exhausting. And you get to a point, you're like, okay, have your tears, have your screams, have your emotions, but we have to keep getting up. Especially as allies to the trans community, if we're exhausted, imagine how they are, their struggle. And how do we have to keep getting up for them. I have to keep getting up for the trans kids and the families and, the different parts of the community. So, it is exhausting. And there are times where we've had a couple of destinations lately that I won't name names, but there was one destination in particular that there's a local super right-wing extreme group that is calling that destination out on anything they do involving LGBT money that's spent, right? So they basically went to the destination in their city council meeting and said, hey, we're not, because most destination marketing organizations are run through the government. So it ties back to the government. So these local community members are like, hey, wait, you're spending our tax dollars and our government dollars, our bed taxes on LGBT marketing. We're not okay with this. And so there was one platform that outed our outed Outcoast on that. They outed me. I was like, okay, well, whatever.
Go for it.
We're already out. So, we're being cautious of that. I think safety is definitely becoming more top of mind for me. You know, my brand and my face is getting out there in this space. So it would be very easy for people to, you know, people that are on the extreme sides to find me and all that. So
and bitch at you if they want to.
Exactly. So I'm aware of that. I'm aware of the safety components. But there are destinations where we're getting a little bit more reluctant about, it's not that we won't go there, we won't highlight some of that content, but we will be real. And I will say, hey, just know this is like, you know, we work with partners up in like Columbia County. It's a beautiful part of Florida, like gorgeous. Like Lake City is a gorgeous area in Florida. The Itchitucknee River and the springs and places that I just, sometimes you want to get away from a city and you just want to be in nature. And I don't want anyone to miss out on those opportunities. But we also have to be real with our travelers. Okay, you will drive down the street and see some Trump flags. You will, you know, it's still super friendly people that we've met. I also always put a disclaimer after every article that we write that this comes from a Caucasian 42-year-old woman, that I can't speak for trans community members.
I'm so glad that you do that.
I can't speak for a gay couple, like a gay Black couple that's walking down the street. Like, I don't, you know, I always make sure to put that disclaimer because
that's so smart of you. And it's
not
it's not, but it's smart of you to do that because it gives people, it allows people to know the truth before going somewhere. You know, I know people from South Florida that will not stop at a rest stop if they're leaving Florida. They will not.
I hear about that with Ocala a lot. Like people are like, I just drive right through.
They'll drive right through. They will do whatever it takes in the car with certain things just because they just refuse to stop. And that's sad, but it's the reality. So you have to be that
I want to say I see that. And again, I can't speak for minority community members at all. Aside from being like a woman and Jewish, which apparently I'm not anymore. So a whole other story for another day. But, you know, I do think sometimes fear, I have struggled with anxiety on and off my entire life. And so I do think sometimes we do sometimes have a tendency to inflate the fear and make it even stronger. I mean, I know many trans women, you know, that are out in the community and Black men that will travel anywhere. They don't care. They will be present. They will show up. And sometimes it's just the way they walk into a place that they just own it and it doesn't bother them. So I think sometimes it's kind of a mix of, okay, are we thinking it's really more dangerous than it is? Or are we just really trying to protect ourselves? And no, you know, negative thoughts about anyone who wants to protect themselves. By all means, do that, whatever you feel comfortable with. But there are some really nice people in every corner. I mean, Fort White is a super conservative area. We've had some of our best little getaways up there on the river and kayaking. And then you go into like High Springs, which is again another super rural area. But when you're walking around town, like several of the bartenders at this little bar in the middle of like Podunk, nowhere, Florida, are gay. Like that we are everywhere. You know, we're
like roaches.
We are. We're like every corner. Palmetto bugs, like the giant.
The ones that fly. Oh, gross. Rachel, where should Pride's coming? So Pride's in a couple of months. Are you affected by all the things that are going on? Will you be going to less Prides this year because of all this?
So ironically, this year I actually am planning, I try to show up in places that aren't super gay. I like to go the opposite way to create change in those spaces. So in June, first week of June, I'm heading to the Women Leaders in Tourism Convention in Nashville of all states.
Wow, okay.
And I convinced them to let me speak for a few minutes at the beginning to talk about Pride Month. Because I said, look, you're hosting this in Pride Month. If you don't talk about Pride Month, that's a problem. Yeah. Especially because you're going to be hosting this in Tennessee, which of course we know is also one of the other problem states for our country right now. So I'm going there, and then I'll be at the Florida Attraction Association convention, which is like the week after. And then I'll be getting around to some of the Pride stuff. We do have a page on our website called, if you go to floridaprideguide.com, that goes right to our website with all the Pride events throughout Florida. I think the thing that's really been the hardest for us lately is that we can't keep up with the changes. I mean, Space Coast Pride has canceled their Pride Parade and kind of changed their festival a little bit.
Like last minute.
Yeah. Naples, I think, changed something about the drag show they were having. So we're just trying to keep up with that to make sure that our website is sharing accurate information. But, you know, do know if there's any Florida LGBT events going on any time of year, but especially in June, people are more than welcome to submit those events on our calendar. It's no cost. We just want to help spread the word and get that information out. It's free marketing. Take it, please.
Yes,
we
seriously.
do that for our community members, entertainers. We definitely want our drag performers posting their shows on our site. to amplify their voices. So.
For sure. Miss Rachel, I'm really looking forward to your travel summit in August. I'm so happy that you're able to finally make that happen and see your vision, right? And have these conversations that need to be had. Like, we are in this day and age that you wouldn't think that a convention that deals with travel would have to touch those topics, but you have to. And you're trailblazing that.
Thank you. And for the convention coming up, it's called Flock. The boys actually over at Flock Fest are donating some flamingos, so we have some decorations.
They have extra. You don't have like 3 million flamingos. Like, geez. Love you boys, Flock Fest.
So Flock Fest, just to clarify, is really focused on inviting in tourism leaders, hotel owners, LGBT pride leaders, anyone in that tourism space or in the LGBT leadership space, event space, to bring people together, to really network, have conversation, how can we work together to keep, in a safe way, bringing people to Florida to support these companies and organizations, and how to also help hotels and tourism partners create more inclusive destinations for LGBT travelers. So it's going to be a lot of really cool conversations. We have a lot of, Lauderdale is one of our sponsors. Visit Lauderdale. Stacy and Richard, I believe, will both have a moment to, not a moment, a little bit more than a moment.
A little bit more than a moment.
A little bit more than a moment to speak at the convention. So, so if you're part of the tourism community or have a business, in Florida that supports supports LGBT travelers or is LGBT owned, please look into Flock. And that one is Flock, FLOCC.LGBT.
I love that. Look it up, okay?
Don't go to flock.org. You'll get to like a Christian, right? Religious.
You went to the wrong place.
Wrong
go back,
sheet.
Go
it's
back.
the wrong sheet. Follow the rainbow sheet.
Follow the rainbow sheet. And if there's something, if this calls to you, look it up. I promise you there's a place for you somewhere in there to make your voice be heard. It's important. These are the things that we need to do. We need to unite at all these fronts because it's just an important time for folks like you, Rachel. Thank you for being the advocate that you are. Okay. Like, you always come first and foremost. This is my privilege. This is what I've got. And this is what I'm trying to bring across. And that energy field that is around you, it permeates. And I really do appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you. The only reason I keep my energy up is I take off from being gay on Fridays. So.
Wow. I didn't know that was an option.
I was actually on a panel one day at a Visitor Bureau Marketing Summit. And I seriously, I said, look, we don't only just want to do LGBT things. Sometimes I take off, from being gay on Fridays. They were so hooked on that one statement. Like 5 minutes later, I had to go back and reassure them that I'm still, in fact, LGBTQ.
And she's more lesbian than ever on Fridays, especially after 5 p.m., according to Margaret. All right.
Muscles.
Make sure that you follow Rachel Covello on all social media outlets, also outcoast.com and also Outcoast TV, right?
Yeah,
and on YouTube, and just follow the Flock. I like that.
Follow the Flock. The Florida Outcoast Convention.
And we will see all you folks there in August. All right, Rachel, thank you for being in bed with me, Mamita. I adore you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that I'm the second Faye you've been in bed with so far. Fays unite!
You're definitely a little more feminine.
Oh, thanks. Well, I've been
a lot more feminine.
It happens.
You have makeup on.
There's that. I would have heels on too, but I'm in bed and the dog hates it. We'll be right back. So, did you enjoy the show? I know you did. So make sure to click subscribe so you won't miss any of the events, news, or interviews right here on the Faywhat show. Ring the bell at the bottom of the screen, right there, so you'll be alerted every time we're live. You can also click on the Happening Out Television Network logo so you can see all of the shows on the most diverse LGBTQ+ media network. Find out just what we're doing to bring the L and the G together right here on the Faywhat show. Get the week started with me.